we're back. What a day. I mean, we're really, really back to back. But I'm excited for this little change of a session with you, Anton, because we have some Adobe sneaks, and we're back into our little world of, Adobe tools, and not just creative guests from the outside world here at OFFF. Anton, how are you?
I'm good, yeah. As you say, it's a crazy day.
Yeah.
But it's lovely to see so many people, to talk to them, have these real life conversations. Almost feels unreal, no?
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
I'm just thinking that tonight I'll have to process everything that happened today, and take a little bit of a step back. How you had a session earlier on? How was that?
Was great. Was the first masterclass today by someone else was super creative, super inspirational. So I kind of took the other side and showed some technical things, like how you can work a little bit faster in Premiere Pro, and all this, we love to call it Sensei magic, the stuff Adobe Sensei does.
Yep.
That's pretty cool, to be honest, and I think people liked it.
Yeah, something that you told me immediately is that people are really excited about things that for you kind of see all the time. So let's give a little bit of intro about what you do at Adobe, because not everyone knows in the chat. So maybe introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I'm the product marketing manager for video in Germany specifically. So kind of on other days than today, I'm spending my time in Germany with the German filmmaking community. And I was a filmmaker myself, so I have this kind of practitioner background. And now I'm at Adobe for 3 years.
Nice.
And love it.
What is a day like for a product manager? I think people are interested, especially if they're in the tools and spending time in After Effects or Premiere Pro. What does your role actually entail?
That's a good question.
Do you know?
No, I mean, I guess everything is completely different.
Yeah.
And I try to be this connection between the people who make our product, the engineering, the product management, and then the people who use the product every day. Like in my case, the German community, but then of course everybody also here that loves video editing. And it's really, I'm honestly saying this, it's so valuable to have this connection to people, because of course we can build the best product that we think works.
Yep.
But of course people have to like it, they have to kind of be able to work with it. So their feedback is much more important than you might think.
I completely agree, and I think this is why we're here as well, because we provide this feedback maybe with everyone watching at home and on Adobe Live regularly, and that also means that you get to hear about how people use the products ultimately. So I really like that we're able to have this feedback loop and the kind of two-way conversation as well. All right, so that's that. If you have any questions in the chat, do feel free to ask. I do want to say hi to people today, because I haven't done this all day, and I'm sorry. So we have Kirsty who's joining us. We have Lisa, Sean, and Mike. So do ask questions. And okay, I can see you guys are having a chat in there, so we're all good. All right, any questions, let Anton know. What do you have for us today? Do you have anything to show? Can you give us sneaks from your talk?
Yeah, I mean, if people like, we can talk about how if we're talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning, it always is this buzzword thing. It's the one buzzword next to the metaverse or behind the metaverse, and but it's real, and almost always the conversation comes up with is this taking away the job of creatives? Is this making work kind of less creative? Do I have to be afraid that I lose my job or stuff like that?
Yeah.
So it's important for us to make really clear that AI, it might take away some work, and I hope it'll do, but only the boring, the annoying stuff. For example, in Premiere Pro, if you have to shorten a soundtrack, and everybody who has ever edited a video knows this, it could take an hour, and you're so bored and annoyed by it. So stuff like this we're trying to make easier so that people can spend more work on the actual creativity.
Yep. What's been the feedback from the community and people who use the products on what you do, and how does that feel?
Yeah, I hope you can still hear us, because
I think so.
It's
pretty
crazy
loud
music.
It's a party at OFF. It's happening.
What was the question again?
The question was the feedback from the community on the products and things that you work on. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's super weird, because we spend all our days in the product and in the development, and we know what's in a new release and stuff. So talking about stuff that I feel like I've talked about 1,000 times or heard 1,000 times, when you show it to people, then you see the eyes getting bigger, and you see that people are it's new to them.
Yep.
And it completely makes sense, because if you're a filmmaker or if you're whatever photographer, you're spending time on your creative work and not on hanging out on adobe.com and being up to date with everything. So I think it's then sessions like this where we can kind of close the loop, close the gap, and say, hey, that's new, and if you like it, give it a try. If it's not relevant for you, then don't.
Yeah.
And especially like stuff that makes things easier means that's more. We want it to be more approachable for people who are just beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you're a video professional, we won't take away your workflow and your kind of work, because I mean we don't want to break stuff, but make stuff easier and still give you the opportunity to kind of go in every detail as much as you like.
Yeah, definitely. You also told me that you kind of spend some time in Facebook groups and kind of communities and smaller, areas where you can also communicate. Where do you find, those conversations about video tools, and how does it feel to be in there? How is your kind of participation looking?
Yeah, it is super different. I mean, we have, as you say, the Facebook groups. We have in Germany, for example, we have big groups, much bigger than you would think, where people give their honest feedback. And it can be hard sometimes, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But this honest feedback is so important for us, because if something's not working, for example, I mean, we need to know to be able to fix it. And then, of course, it's like events like these. It's stuff like film festivals, and there are so many different kinds of video editors out there. So it's a completely different story for each use case and each workflow. And I love kind of being able to look at this almost world of stuff and try to make the best out of it for both sides.
Nice. That's a really good learning. And we started a whole conversation in the chat, if you're there on behance.net/live, about AI, which I think gets people really excited, but also kind of bringing some concerns. So let's see how that conversation goes. Any thoughts on that? Or
I can't really see the comments, but I mean, in general, AI, as I said, it's a buzzword. And I think it's important to look at what's behind it.
Yep.
And then it's not magic that no one understands, and it's just doing stuff. But you're training a computer, an algorithm to do something. And I mean, a super basic AI would be one that could identify dogs, for example. You give it a picture and it says, it's dog, no dog. And the AI has no idea what a dog is, and doesn't understand the concept of animals or world or whatever, but it learned how dogs look like, and in then 95% of all cases, it makes the right decision. Yeah. So AI is just a fancy
word. Did you say 90% or 99% of chances?
I think 95 depends on your.
Yeah.
And everything makes mistakes also.
Yeah.
And I think it's super important to kind of demystify this buzzword.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, I mean, it's really not to, and we have at Adobe, that's maybe important to call out, we have a whole committee that looks at it from an ethical side as well, to say, is what you're doing, is this right to do on an ethical side? And only if yes, we're going to do it. Yeah,
that's really interesting. I think Adobe did start some work around that as well. You're right about just the ethical side of it. And also I remember the whole initiative, which is still the case, on content authenticity and bringing that out as well. So I think, we are talking about these topics as well, and that's really interesting to see.
Yeah.
What's exciting for video in this year? I have random questions about the future as well. We're talking about
future.
AI. But what are you looking to? What are the next kind of 1 year, I would say? Let's not ask about the 5-year plan.
Yeah. I wouldn't have that either.
Okay.
So anyway, but yeah, I think one part is kind of what are actions that you need to do for video editing that are way kind of that need more time than they give value. For example, and I love this example because it's I spent so much time with it before. When you're transcribing a video for subtitles and captions, it's annoying and it's boring, and you spend so much time to get it right. With an outcome that's only, I mean, captions, subtitles are super important, but compared to the time you spent on it, the outcome is not so good. So having an AI transcribing stuff for you, and you only fix the mistakes, it will always make mistakes. If you fix the mistakes, you do it in maybe 10 minutes instead of an hour. And this, I think, where many of our resources go into to look at stuff that people need to do and take away the very manual work, and but still, of course, leaving people the opportunity to do it if they want to. If you want to transcribe by hand, do it. No worries. Not gonna judge you, but it's easier now. And then I think for the future, it's especially when you think about you be able to transcribe stuff that's spoken. You see it in your timeline. You can say, I wanna play back only this sentence, and all of this works already. You can scan through hours of footage for a documentary, for example, and search for the things you need. That's all in there today. And then, I mean, for the future, I think this combination of text and information and video opens up so many possibilities that we're not ready to talk about. But yeah, it's exciting, I think, because people really also maybe after the pandemic thinking about how value is their time and what they're gonna do with their time. And are they enjoying it or not? So taking away stuff that's not fun, I think makes much sense.
Yeah, I quite like the approach of that. Instead of thinking about what is stopping us to do or removing, what it allows you to do as well. So this is not just time saving, but there's all these kind of search elements that you're mentioning, and that's the case for so many other elements of like Sensei and AI and. There is a negative chat, like we see often as well, and I think that's completely fair as well because we have to question everything that we see technology-wise. So, super interesting. Anything we can show now? We can screen share. We have anything on that you prepared?
Yeah. Are there any questions?
For now, we have a lot of comments. I know. I just told Anton before this that if you have questions, I need to give it a little bit of love. I think Mike had some interesting. Questions. I think so far so good. Working a little bit on their personal projects. Lisa is saying hi from Malaga.
Cool.
So we're all good.
Nice.
Stuart and Karina are here. Nice to see some people from Adobe Live who are usually tuning in. So yeah. Lisa is asking, will AI bring more democracy to creating professions, being accessible to more people?
That's a good question.
Ooh, we had one question that is.
I think. I mean, it's super philosophical almost, but I would say yes in terms of it can make stuff easier. So if you want to explore new things, new topics, new kinds of work, it could help you get started. But it's not like the same where it's not the one metaverse, there's not the one AI. So it really depends on how you apply it and what you build with it. But there are so many amazing products out there at Adobe, but also outside of Adobe, that really enable you to be creative in a way that just wasn't possible before or wasn't that approachable before. And when we speak about democracy, I think we have to also speak, as you said, the ethical and moral part of what can happen, stuff like deep faking and so on. So I think it's also important to really watch the space to say, how are we going to be able to know whether something's real or not in times where you really can't tell anymore because it's so good. Also, if you look like artificially created photos of people that look so real but are just renderings, it's amazing on one side and really terrifying on the other. So then really building workflows to be able to say, this is a real photo that this person made, and kind of this is the chain of things that happen to it, and now you see it in New York Times or whatever it is, or on Twitter, and you know the source. So yes and no, and yes, no.
And Lisa is saying, thanks for responding. It's an interesting conversation, and we agree. We might need like a couple more streams to cover all the topics. And I think sometimes you don't quite have answers as well. It's kind of live happening, and I know at OFF there'll be plenty of conversations as well around this. And it's kind of, you said watch the space, and I think that's quite a good learning from that. So just staying tuned to developments.
I mean, staying curious and being open to what's coming. It's not always easy to say, like, this has been my profession for for a year or for 20 or 30 years, and now everything's changing completely. Is this good or bad? It depends. It depends. But I think being open for new stuff is really important.
We do have a question from Stuart as well, who's going back to your voice action kind of mention in speech to text. Do you think voice actions within the software will become a thing? For example, Photoshop and kind of dictating.
That's a good question. I'm the wrong person to answer it, I think. I don't really know. But I mean, in theory, yeah, the question will be, I think, how much are you really able to do with it, and how intelligent, quote unquote, can it be? So if you say like, hey, Photoshop, crop this image and put a cat on the shoulder of the left person, whatever, would it be able to do it or not? That's a good question.
Stuart, I guess, watch this space. We have the same learning. So I think that's it for now for questions, but do keep asking. Oliver is saying, Stuart, if we could only say, hey, Photoshop, fix my photos, that'd be great. That's the next level of AI. And the magic just happens. Interesting one. So that's it for questions, I think, for now.
Yeah, if you have any questions, then just pop them in.
Yeah.
We love to answer as many as we can.
Yeah.
I still love the idea
of fixing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would save my life in many ways.
So yeah,
all right.
I mean, we can look at some things if people want to just few examples of how Adobe Sensei, which is kind of our overarching term for everything connected to AI and machine learning, how it can save you time in Premiere Pro, actually.
Yeah. And you came prepared, so that's great. You already have
something
I
already did it before. and what I love about that is that, as I said, people that edit videos, they're spending their time editing videos, obviously, and not always watching our releases. So if you want to learn something or refresh kind of your memory on that stuff, we can totally look at it. And for example, here, I just talked about the speech-to-text part, the auto-transcription. When you have a video where someone saying something, can give it a spin.
Hey everyone, it's me, Halise, endeavoring to persevere. As always, if you're new here, I make videos about my chaotic good life.
Stuff like this, it's a few seconds and then like half a minute video. Transcribing this would take you a few minutes. It's not that bad, but if you're kind of looking at bigger projects, or you have 50 of these videos and not just one, then it's really time consuming. And now for almost a year, I think, we have speech-to-text in there. First, it was a cloud service. Now it moved over to be completely offline. So I'm even offline now. You can just hit the transcribe sequence button. In this case, it's English. It also works. I'm German, so I can definitely say that the German transcription works really well as well. But for English, let's hit transcribe. And now it's looking at words and trying to. I also wanted to say, and that's so funny because as in AI, we tend to like personalize, humanize this. So I wanted to say it's trying to make sense out of it, and of course it's not. It's trying to find words and sentences. So here in this case, we have the transcription, and I can not only play this back and it'll jump with it.
Hey everyone, it's me, Halise, endeavoring to persevere.
I can also go into the text and say, okay, I want to start at here, good time. We haven't even watched this part, but or maybe here this sentence. I just click it and hit play. And this opens up really new ways of editing footage because you can scroll through the text. And if this is an 1 hour interview, you can really. Sometimes I edit interviews now, and it's taking me less time to make the rough edit than to watch it once, which is incredible. And then you can. I was saying before, I think that's still making mistakes. So that's not her name. And then you can go in there because how would it know her name? That's correct. And then you still have the correct one and then able to create captions and subtitles and stuff. That's just one thing. Another one, if you have the time, is remix. This is a 1 minute video and soundtrack is whatever, 2, 25 or whatever it is. Let's give that a spin. So, I mean, pretty standard background soundtrack. That's way too long. And then, and I've done this so many times in the last few years. It is so annoying, so time consuming. You would go in and find the loops and the phrases and then cut your music together. And it's taking so much time. And now you have here this remix tool, and you just go into that soundtrack, drag the edge and pull it forward. It's opening that panel. It's like I did this that's maybe unfair. I did this before, so it didn't have to think.
Yeah.
It took like 5 or 6 seconds to think when I did this earlier. And now you see these transitions here. These are cuts, but really like it's splitting the soundtrack into blocks and then putting it together so it's your length. And if we can totally zoom in on one of these transitions and play this back, and let's try to hear the edit, and we won't be able to. So it's really stuff like this that's still amazing to me, and still so many people don't know it. And as I said, no judgment. This has been available in Audition for 5 or 6 years maybe, and now it's coming to Premiere Pro. And it's stuff like this and many, many, many things more that really makes your life easier. And that's what we mean when we say kind of AI is trying to, or we are trying to make people more efficient with AI.
That links really well with Lisa's question, and I think we can end on that last question at least. In what way does this AI learn from its mistakes, texting more correct?
It depends on how you train your AI. In this case, speech to text in Premiere Pro doesn't learn from your edits, so it doesn't take your footage to learn. Which also means if you're like editing super sensitive material, it doesn't take this material and sends it back to Adobe so we can learn with it. It's been trained on, I don't even know, probably hundreds of hours of people talking of speech. So it doesn't learn from your footage, but it does learn from our footage and what we are trying to do, and we try to make it a little bit better every time a new release comes out. So yes and no, and I think it's super important because machine learning, I mean, even implies that it's an ongoing process, like for humans as well. For the machine, it's an ongoing process, and it can get better over time. It also can get worse over time, so you really have to be careful how you train it. But it's a super important part.
Nice. Thank you so much for that. We have a couple hours before the end of OFF today. I think Rufus is going to be on stage, so I'll definitely be catching that if I can. Anything else that you have in your highlights for the next days?
To be honest, I just spent, because I was so involved today, I will spend tomorrow and Saturday just, talking to people, being at our booth here. So if you're at OFF, come to the booth. There's plenty of good stuff here, and of course, like the marketplace and everything else.
Definitely. I think soaking it in is the best part of it, and you can enjoy it now. Thank you so much for your sneaks and joining us for this kind of 25 minutes. We'll be right back with a little 5-minute break as usual, so see you soon.
See ya.
you.